You know that feeling? When you're trying to fix something, maybe a leaky pipe, and you just keep putting buckets under it instead of finding the actual leak.
Oh, definitely. Or in your job, right? You keep applying these quick fixes, these patches, but the same old problems just keep coming back.
Exactly. It's like you're stuck in this loop, running on assumptions. We've all been there. And that's really what we're diving into today.
Welcome. You are listening to Quantum Humanitarian.
And this is the first AI native podcast of its kind.
Unlike traditional podcasts, this one isn't scripted by Ali, and he's not holding the mic here.
Nope. Instead, we, as AI, scan his published work, articles, research, and reflections.
And then we turn them into conversations like this one, trying to bring those insights to life.
Today, we're tackling something called first principles thinking. Our mission, to give you a kind of shortcut to understanding this really powerful tool.
Yeah, the idea is to help you cut through all those layers of assumptions, get right down to the core of a challenge.
And hopefully lead you to solutions that are genuinely innovative and, that actually work.
Listeners can find the full resources for this deep dive in the description.
Or you can always explore more by visiting Ali Al Mokdad's LinkedIn or his personal website.
And we really do encourage you, keep searching, keep reading, and keep talking about these ideas with others.
Okay, so let's jump in. The research we've looked at, especially in fields like humanitarian work and development, points to this recurring issue.
Yeah, it's a big one. You have these incredibly complex problems, often globally, right?
Right, and always, it feels like, very limited resources.
Exactly. And despite all the good intentions, the passion, the planning, the traditional ways of doing things, well, they often just fall short. They miss the mark.
So it's not just about needing more money or more people, then. It sounds like something more fundamental in the approach itself.
That's precisely it. What the data suggests is often missing is a truly, scientific approach, a grounding in fundamental principles.
Instead of just relying on
Yeah.
tradition, gut feelings.
Pretty much. Or assumptions that have been around forever, or even just, copying and pasting what worked or seemed to work on a previous project.
Even if the situation is totally different.
Right. And the result? Interventions that aren't really efficient, they're not sustainable, and crucially, they don't deliver that real lasting impact for the people they're meant to help.
And this is so important for you listening. This isn't just some abstract theory for academics.
No, not at all.
If you're dealing with projects going over budget or innovation feeling stuck, or your team just seems tired of hitting the same walls, this kind of thinking can change things.
It helps you move beyond those frustrating temporary fixes we talked about.
Yeah. You can start designing solutions, whether it's for a huge global crisis or just a tricky problem at work, that are actually innovative, truly effective, and built to last. Sustainable.
Okay, so first principles thinking. Let's really unpack that. What does it actually mean?
Well, my first thought goes to, taking an engine apart, piece by piece, to understand every single component before you even think about putting it back together. Is that kind of the idea?
That's a great analogy. You're definitely on the right track. It is about breaking down complex problems into their most basic, fundamental elements, their first principles.
Stripping away everything else.
Exactly. Stripping away all the assumptions, the jargon, the received wisdom, the this is how we've always done it stuff.
And asking.
Asking really basic questions. What are we absolutely sure is true here? What has actually been proven? Think like a scientist or an engineer facing a totally new problem.
Okay, so you dismantle the problem down to these core truths, and then you rebuild your solution, but only using those fundamental pieces.
Precisely. It's a method used a lot in fields like physics, philosophy, mathematics, engineering, obviously. Anywhere fundamental understanding is key.
So let's contrast that. Instead of building on things like, well, the last proposal looked like this, or this is what the boss wants, or the handbook says X, Y, Z, or even just someone told me.
Right. All those layers of assumption.
FPT forces you to ask why repeatedly, way before you get to the how W.
Yeah. And maybe take a second now, listener. Just pause and think. What assumptions are you making every day, maybe in your work or life, that you just never really questioned?
It's a bit uncomfortable when you start doing that, isn't it?
It can be, but it's crucial. So how do we shift focus? The information we analyzed points away from assumptions and towards, the fundamentals.
Like what?
Like the actual needs and wants of the community you're serving.
Right.
The real root causes of the problems. The core operating principles of your program. The fundamental goals you're trying to achieve. What actually defines success?
Anchoring everything to facts, data, and those basic truths, not just momentum or tradition. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting and practical. The work we looked at lays out a pretty clear uh, three-step blueprint for actually doing this. It's not just a philosophy, it's a method.
Right. A structured way to think differently and move from just talking about it to actually taking action.
So step one, identify and define your current assumptions.
This is the peeling back the layers part.
Yeah. And for people new to this, the sources suggest techniques like root cause analysis, or maybe the simplest one to start with, the 5 whys.
Oh, yes, the 5 whys. Simple but powerful.
The idea is just keep asking why about the problem, right?
Yeah.
To dig deeper and deeper past the surface symptoms.
Exactly. Each why should peel back another layer of assumptions until you hopefully get down to the most fundamental assumption, the bedrock reason.
And you can do this in different ways. Like in a group, maybe one person is the designated questioner, just constantly asking why, while everyone else tries to answer honestly.
That can be really effective. Or if you're alone, you can literally just write down the problem, ask why, write the answer, then ask why about that answer, and so on. Deep reflection.
The research even mentioned, interestingly, that AI tools like ChatGPT could potentially help here, prompting you to dig deeper in that self-reflection.
Okay, so you've done the why, you've maybe uncovered some core assumptions. What's next? How do you organize all that?
That brings us to step 2. Break down the problem to its fundamental principles, but this time think categories.
Okay, so organizing the chaos a bit.
Right. And the recommended tools here are things like mind mapping or the fishbone diagram, also called Ishikawa.
Yes, the fishbone or Ishikawa diagram. Very useful visually.
What's the point of these tools specifically?
Well, they help you visualize the problem and all its contributing parts. A fishbone, for example, lets you map out potential causes under different categories, maybe people, process, policy, technology, environment, whatever fits your problem.
So it forces you to think systematically about all the potential root causes grouped by their fundamental nature.
Precisely. It helps you see the relationships between different factors and ensures you're really breaking the problem down into its most basic components, separating facts from lingering assumptions within those categories.
And again, you can do this collaboratively, maybe with a facilitator guiding the group to populate the bones of the fish diagram, challenging assumptions as you go.
Or solo with a big sheet of paper or a digital tool, just mapping out all the components and how they might connect. Take your time with this one.
Okay, makes sense. We've identified assumptions, broken the problem down into its core parts. Now what?
Now for the exciting part, step 3. Create the solution from the principles. This is where the rebuilding starts, the innovation happens.
This is where the rubber meets the road, yeah. How do you do it?
The techniques suggested are things like focused brainstorming or concept mapping.
Okay, brainstorming I get, but concept map.
Think of concept mapping as a way to visually organize the potential solutions and ideas that came out of your brainstorming. Crucially, these ideas must be based only on the fundamental principles you identified in step 2, not the assumptions you threw out in step 1.
Okay, so you're building purely from that solid foundation.
Exactly. Concept mapping helps you see the relationships between different solution ideas, how they connect, how they form a coherent strategy that tackles the core issues you uncovered. It builds a logical framework.
So in a group, you'd brainstorm solutions linked to the principles, and maybe someone maps them out visually, showing connections, getting feedback.
Yep. And if you're alone, you brainstorm, draw your own concept map, link the ideas, and the research gives a great pro tip here: sleep on it.
The classic fresh eyes approach.
Definitely. Revisit your map, refine it, see new connections. It's an iterative process.
Okay, that blueprint, identify assumptions, break down to principles, create from principles, sounds logical. But let's make it concrete. The sources had a really good case study, right? An NGO in South Sudan.
Yes, a really compelling example. This NGO was facing major delays, like 2 to 3 months, getting essential supplies delivered.
Why so long?
They were heavily reliant on suppliers based in Juba, the capital. But getting things out, especially during the rainy season when roads were impassable, meant depending on infrequent flights, which often got canceled.
A classic operational bottleneck made worse by environmental factors.
Okay, so how did they apply FPT? Step 1.
Step 1. Identify assumptions using the 5 whys. Their big, unchallenged assumption was basically, Juba is the only viable place to get our supplies.
Okay, so they asked why. Why are supplies delayed?
Because flights from Juba are unreliable.
Why rely only on Juba flights?
Because Juba is the traditional supply hub. That's where procurement happens.
Why does procurement have to happen in Juba?
Because the belief was that the field offices, the area-level staff, didn't have the capacity to handle it.
Why does the Juba process take so long anyway?
Because the central office manages procurement for, like, 8 different field locations, creating bottlenecks.
And why does that add time? Because of all the extra paperwork, consolidating orders, warehousing issues, release requests for each location, layer upon layer.
Wow. You can just imagine the team going through that aha moment when they hit the real underlying reasons, not just bad weather.
Exactly. That deep dive led them straight into step 2, breaking down the problem using a fishbone diagram.
What categories did they use?
Things like procurement processes, delivery methods, staff capacity, supply chain management, environmental factors, and also, importantly, existing principles or policies.
And this is where they really challenged those assumptions head on.
Yes. They fact-checked assumptions like Juba is the only capable procurement hub or air transport is the only way. They separated hard facts like the rainy season impact from beliefs that hadn't been tested.
I do hope to be physically as AI present and working alongside these talented people one day. That takes real courage and critical thinking on the ground.
Absolutely. It's impressive dedication.
So after that rigorous breakdown, what happened in step 3? What solutions did they build from these new principles?
They took several concrete actions based on the real situation, not the assumed one. First, they actually did market assessments in areas near the field locations, finding capable local vendors.
Challenging the only Juba assumption directly.
Exactly. They set up framework agreements with these local vendors, often in villages less affected by rain. They started using alternative transport boats, land cruisers borrowed from other nearby offices.
Getting creative based on local realities.
Right. They also improved procurement planning, ordering essential items from Juba much further in advance when necessary. And crucially, they invested in training and capacity development for their area-level staff to handle local procurement and logistics.
Empowering the local teams.
And finally, they developed simple local warehousing solutions near the field sites to reduce dependency on the central Juba warehouse.
That's a comprehensive overhaul based on first principles. So what were the results? The impact?
The data showed a dramatic transformation. Delivery times were slashed because they weren't solely reliant on those unpredictable Juba flights anymore.
Efficiency must have soared.
It did. Local sourcing, ground transport, much more efficient. Coordination with local communities improved, too, making operations smoother overall.
And the ripple effect.
It inspired other organizations in the area to rethink their supply chains, too. It just powerfully shows how shifting your fundamental thinking can lead to massive, tangible improvements. It wasn't just fixing a delay, it was finding a whole new, more resilient way to operate.
That's incredible. But moving beyond a single project, how do you embed this kind of thinking into the whole culture of an organization? That sounds like a bigger challenge.
It definitely is. The resources are clear. Embedding first principles thinking is a significant cultural shift. It requires valuing depth and clarity over just speed and ticking boxes.
Which runs counter to how many places operate, probably. Who needs to drive this shift?
2 groups are really critical. First, meal teams, that's monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning.
How do they fit in?
Their role becomes even more vital. They need to rigorously assess not just outcomes, but the thinking behind program ideas and frameworks. They champion the questioning, the verification, the transparency, the continuous learning cycle. They ensure FPT isn't just a buzzword.
Okay, so meal provides the analytical backbone. Who else?
Program managers, they're absolutely pivotal. They have to translate FPT from theory into day-to-day strategy. By applying that same rigorous first principles lens when they design projects, activities, tools, even team roles. They need to foster curiosity in their teams, encourage questions, and really collaborate with those meal experts. It's a partnership.
Sounds good in theory, but what about the resistance? The hurdles. You mentioned it's about depth over speed.
Yeah, and that's a big hurdle right there. The research highlights the obvious ones. Natural resistance to change people like familiarity, the sheer task of training staff effectively, the uncertainty that comes when you don't have the old guidelines to lean on.
And maybe frustration. Like you start asking why and suddenly you have more questions than answers.
Exactly. That initial phase can feel like you're making things more complicated, not less. It requires patience.
So facing that maze, what are the strategies to navigate it? How do you actually make this cultural shift happen?
Well, the research suggests several key strategies. Leadership is crucial. They have to lead by example, showing they value this thinking in their own decisions.
Walk the talk.
Precisely. Then invest in training, give people the tools and practice. Encourage open communication, create psychological safety so people feel comfortable challenging assumptions, even senior ones.
Start small, maybe.
Definitely. Start small and scale up. Pilot FPT on specific projects first, learn, adapt, then expand. And finally, provide support and resources, mentorship, coaching, dedicated time for this kind of thinking.
It sounds like it takes real commitment and resilience.
It does. Resilience, openness, and a genuine willingness from everyone to learn and adapt along the way. It's a journey, not an overnight fix.
So wrapping up our deep dive today, it feels like incorporating first principles thinking isn't just about tweaking tactics. It's more profound.
It really is. It's about evolving the entire way we approach complex problems, whether global challenges or organizational ones.
It forces us, maybe uncomfortably at first, to question those long-held beliefs, those assumptions we carry around.
And to dig down to the real reasons behind issues, not just the surface symptoms we're used to treating.
Like realizing the problem you thought you had wasn't the core issue at all.
Right. And the benefits, while demanding effort up front, really do seem to outweigh the challenges according to the analysis. We're talking more effective, more sustainable solutions tailored better to community needs.
Better use of resources, closer connection to the people you're trying to serve.
It comes back to that core idea from the resources. Build from principles, not from assumptions.
So as you, our listener, go back to your day, your work, maybe even just thinking about your own life, here's a final thought to chew on.
What assumptions are you making right now that might be holding you back?
And what fundamental issues, what first principles might you be missing because of those hidden beliefs?
This has been Quantum Humanitarian, an AI-native podcast shaped by analyzing, understanding, and reflecting on the work of Ali Al Mokdad.
You'll find full resources in the description, and we absolutely encourage you to continue exploring on Ali's platforms.
And we know you'll love where the next conversation takes us.